All right, you guys, we are live with another edition of IOPPS Indigepreneur Show. My name is Nathan Arias. I come from Red Pheasant First Nation on the Treaty 6 land. And to my left, we have.
Gene Ouellette, I thought you were going to introduce your little guest there behind you.
Well, that's my cousin, everyone. Or my cousin. That's my niece. She wants to be part of the show.
Gene Ouellette, originally from Mistwasis, Nehayawak in north central Saskatchewan. Hour and a half up the road from good buddy Nathan Arias.
Yeah. So, you guys, welcome to the show tonight. And like you said, our show is all about Indigenous business, finance, and entrepreneurship. And tonight's guest is Keith Matthew. So, we're going to bring Keith on here, but really quickly, check out IOPPS.ca for your daily jobs.
And then also just want to do a shout out to Rachel Smith and Bannock Express. She was our last week's guest. And Nathan, did you send $50?
No, but you know what? I actually messaged
But after
her.
the show, you will. You know why? Because she's doing a fundraiser, and all the money that is donated, she's going to match. And it goes on to that board, and that board is for those people that can't afford meals to go in there, and they got a variety of different things that they could choose from that board, little sticky notes. Every single one is goes towards a good cause. So, Nathan, after the show...
I'm challenging right now. I'm challenging Gene Ouellette to send $500, and I will send 50. Boom.
I already sent my 50. You sent 5.
Now that you talk about that, I messaged her tonight. I had this idea. A lot of people know me. Like I raise money. What I'm gonna do, as in she agreed to it, was we're gonna go live and we're gonna set a number of what we want to raise, and we'll go live until we hit that number.
Okay.
For her wall. Right?
Okay. Yeah. And again, Bannock Express. You guys check them out on Facebook. Bannock Express. The full menu, everything is there. And if you guys want to do e-transfer over to Bannock Express, the email that she uses is info@bannockexpress.ca for the e-transfers. So let's try to raise money. I know that the weather's getting cold. And my goodness, with this COVID, it's definitely taking its stress on a lot of people. And some people just don't have those means to get to the next day. So if we could do that, let's do that.
It's such a great initiative, man, what she's doing. So I'm pumped to do that. You should actually come on with me. We'll do it together as an Indigepreneur kind of thing.
Are we going to go there?
No, I think, well, we could, but we could do it like this as well, right? Safety precautions.
Yeah. Well, actually, I think going there would be pretty neat. Watch everybody in action. Suit up.
Yeah. All right. We can't wait any longer. Our guest is in the back. We're waiting. So, like I said, tonight our guest is Keith. I'm going to read a quick little version of his bio. Keith Matthew. Keith is a proud member of, I'm saying that Simpson, right? Of the Simpson First Nation?
No, it's or is that difficult. Actually... It's pretty difficult to pronounce. Let's wait till Keith comes on and you get it.
Okay, we'll bring him on.
Yes.
All right, we're bringing Keith on. Hello, Keith.
Mr. Keith Matthew, how you doing, my bro?
Danse, Nathan and Gene, it's good to be on here tonight.
Yes. Sorry about your. I thought that was a misprint in your bio there, and it was supposed to say Samson Reserve there, and I was like, should I fix that?
No. Let me set the record straight, Nathan. It's Simch First Nation, and we're about an hour north of Kamloops, and I live on my res. It's part of the Shuswap Nation. We've got 16 communities, so we're one of the northernmost communities in my nation.
Oh, so it's like a
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Pronounce it again, Keith.
Pardon me?
Pronounce it again.
It's Simch.
Simch.
Yes. Our language is Clever's Gene. It's got lots of glottal stops and lots of stuff. Back of the throat. Yeah.
Okay.
Sounds like I'm clearing my throat.
All right. Well, welcome to Indigepreneur, Keith Matthew. I don't like, me and Keith have known each other for a number of years, and I know that he's a mover and a shaker. He's got a lot of stuff on the go, and including with your First Nation, I know you guys are front and center on various projects happening in your territory. But let's start at the beginning. Who is Keith Matthew?
Well, I was on council for about 10 years, and for my community, I did my public service. I was a counselor, and then I was a chief for 5 years, and I had the economic development portfolio for my community. So during that time, during those 10 years, I did a lot of business development work, including agreements with Mike Wiggly Helicopter Skiing, which is a world-class destination skiing resort in our territory up in Blue River, as well as fiber agreements. I also did an independent power project, Bone Creek, 10 megawatts, and my community gets benefits from that particular project. And more notably, I think something that I helped negotiate was an agreement with Kinder Morgan and the Trans Mountain Pipeline. So those are just some of the things that I've done in my tenure as a counselor and a chief. But more recently, doing a lot of volunteer work with Thompson Rivers University. I chair our economic development arm for Simcoe Resources Group. And I'm also, amongst other things, chair for CAN DO, the Economic Developers Association for Canada, Indigenous. And I chair our Community Futures Development Corp in Kamloops. So those are just some of the things I do. And I like helping our people, get beyond, get out of poverty, basically.
To get on our own and do our own thing and do, you know what I mean, make and build that confidence in all our people. And that's that's what we like to show on the show, is like people such as yourself to show that it can be done. We can do it.
So what's your formal background, training, education, Keith? Are you business or is it forestry, just given that where you're situated?
Yeah, no, that's a good question, Gene. Thank you. My background, I started out professionally in communications media as a journalist, and I did some work with Windspeaker up in Edmonton, as well as a number of other Indigenous publications. I did some corporate work with BC Hydro in the Aboriginal Relations Department, and then more recently, I took training at BCIT around business development and how to write business plans, and that was a certificate program. And then I've got a professional designation as well with CAN DO, and that really helps me as an economic developer. I have all the basic training that you need to get going. And I started my business actually through my local community futures quite a few years ago now, but it helped me. There was a program where you could sign up if you're wanting to start up your own business, and it allowed me to extend my EI benefits while I was developing my business plan. So it was a really good start to me getting into business for myself.
So the inquiry minds want to know, Keith, what business is that?
Well, I started out in communications planning because that was my background professionally.
Okay.
But then I extended that further into other areas. I currently have 4 businesses right now. So I've got Malaman Water Services. So we do water monitoring. It's a joint venture with AUG Signals out of Toronto. And it's especially intended to help those communities that have water issues. And the company I'm working with helped in 5 boil water advisories in Northern Ontario. So that's one of my businesses. I have my SECLA Business Services that does, helps Indigenous business with their own startups and those types of things. And I work with our communities in a consulting role. Then I've got another company that does Scoutum Services. We do geomatics and surveying and help communities with their surveying needs And then I have a joint venture as well with my nephew, and we do heavy construction. So we're working right now on the pipeline operations and maintenance, as well as construction side. So we're pretty busy.
Wow, you could say that again.
Yeah.
Where the heck do you find time to sleep? Because I know that Can-Do, you guys just wrapped up your was it national conference?
Yes, we did. Yep. And it was it's a new world out there, Gene, and everything is online, and that's one of the challenges for us as Indigenous people. I know a lot of our Indigenous communities don't have high speed, so participating in today's economy is a real challenge for us.
Yeah, we don't have.
There goes Nathan. You hit
it yet. It's coming. It's coming with Elon Musk. You know who Elon Musk is?
Oh, I definitely know who he is.
Oh yeah, and it's hitting public trials right now in southern Canada. I don't know what southern Canada means. I don't know if that's like
Toronto.
Yeah, I guess. But he's testing it now. So, and the price point's okay. Anyway, I don't want to get into that. I can go on forever about him.
So how was the response then going virtual for Can-Do?
It was a little bit less than we expected, but we have to adjust to the new reality, and COVID's going to be around for another probably a couple of years, so we better get used to it and doing the stuff that you're doing here. I really like this format, by the way, guys. It's wonderful.
Thank you.
I think I'd love to see something like that here in British Columbia. So maybe once we're done this, I'd like to have a discussion about extending this service into other parts of Western Canada. This is awesome, by the way. I love it. You guys are amazing. So just to quickly answer your question, Can-Do, we did have our conference online. The numbers were down a bit because of the new format. Everyone likes to attend in person and learn in person. So it's a bit of a challenge for not only us, but all the other Indigenous organizations that are trying to offer services to our business owners and our economic developers. It's a real challenge these days.
Oh yeah, it's like now you're seeing all like conferences and everything being held online, and everyone's got to get used to it. COVID is going to be around here for a few more years, and I think perfect timing. Back to Muskie there, Elon, that all this high speeds coming online now. Hopefully, in the next 3 or 4 months, all Indigenous communities right across Canada will be in full force getting our high speed, which then brings us to the forefront. And I keep on telling everyone, I'm going to say it every single show, is when we get high speed, watch out, man. We are going to be on full force. Indigenous business is going to be out there because everyone will have access to it, and everyone's going to start going hard now.
First world problems. Go figure.
Yes. And then, and they're gonna be inspired with like when they see stories like Keith, right? Like Keith, you're running 4 businesses, and it's only gonna want to inspire. It could, like I saying, that's what our show is about, is showing that Indigenous people are successful. We just gotta showcase us more, I guess.
But also at the same time, so many people don't know why, because they're not connected. And I think that's a great thing about this program, is that we're able to reach the mass audience right across the country. It's on Facebook, and it seems like Facebook is social media of choice amongst Indigenous people. Anything and everything that happens, go to Facebook. And unfortunately, sometimes it's true, sometimes it isn't. And but at the same time, it definitely serves a purpose. And I still got so many friends that aren't on social media. I'm just like, guys, man, get with the times. And they always respond saying there's too much drama. And I'm like, well, it's your Facebook. You create as much drama as you want, right? Yeah. So how about you, Keith? Kids?
Yeah, I've got 2 kids. My kids are, my girl is 29 and my boy is 26. And they're both gainfully employed. My daughter she took a human services worker at Thompson Rivers University in Kamloops. She's working in elder care, and she's she's got a great job. She really loves it. She's a caretaker, and her name is Gypsy. And my son, Jordan, he's been taking his undergrad at Thompson Rivers University as well. And he wants to go into human service, or HR, human resources management. So once he gets his undergrad, he can take his major after that.
Well, that's good what your daughter's doing, because we're all getting old, and hopefully one day she's going to be looking after you, right? So.
No.
Well, my son says he's going to put me in a home when I get older, so I can't wait for that. I want to rest.
Yeah, yeah.
Hey, Keith, I want to touch back on your journalism there. Go back, and I'm just reading your bio real quick, and it says you were you graduated at Caribou College, and then you went to work. Is that Coyote Prince?
Yes.
And I don't even want to pronounce that. How do you pronounce that? Sequim News?
Oh, pardon me, Sequim. Yeah.
Sequim News, yeah.
Our tribal newspaper, yeah.
Oh, okay. So how did that lead? Did that help you when you were in journalism? Did that bring you to where you are today? Is it still going on, on your reserve? Or is that your reserve? Or?
No, actually, everything is going online, and there's not much print journalism that's survived. The changes that are occurring in the journalism industry, and even the major news outlets, Globe and Mail, all the magazines are having trouble attracting audiences because everything is going virtual, and it's changing the way that the journalism world is operating today. So you'll see a lot of competition out there for what you're doing right now, which is virtual. There's a lot more opportunity in that area rather than print journalism, which it's a tough one. Even back when I was younger, it was hard to make a good living out of it. So I decided to change my career and move into politics for a bit, and then go into business. So it really helped me develop my critical thinking and those types of things.
I think I was just talking to a young man here before we started this show, and he does a podcast. And I was thinking before, and I want to see it. I'm going to put it out into the universe that it happens, that each reserve does something like this, because it would be nice to know what each reserve is up to. I mean, even your own community members. The good way to, have somebody as a personality or whatever, like Gino would do Mr. Wasis, I would do Red Pheasant, and, Keith, you would do yours. But you know what I mean? That's what I mean. And just hear, okay, this is what's happening this week, just updates. And I think that form of journalism is what is needed. And also, you could always have other people listen in on each reserve, finding out what's going on in their economic development and, that kind of thing. So there's another new way of connecting with each other that way.
I think what it does also is build a lot of the young people's self-esteem by going in front of a camera and having the confidence to talk. I know that the first time I ever public spoke was at my high school grad, and I had to read the speech, and the lighting was terrible, and I needed glasses, and I couldn't see, and all of a sudden I was just looked around, and then all of a sudden I left stage, man. Oh my goodness, man, that was my first experience. But after that, I definitely got glasses, but I don't it does so much. And Keith, you're so right as far as journalism and how it evolved, and where we're at today, and how everything is going virtual. And there's some good ways, I think, of doing it, and maybe some not so good ways. And by going virtual, it's kind of a risk, because you never know what the person you're interviewing is going to say. I know Nathan pretty good, that I have a pretty good idea as to what he's going to say. And we don't want to try to go into any controversial topics and that. And I think that's something that where you get some of the gray hair from having that experience and having interviews and having discussions with various people. Because I know that as soon as you mention the word pipelines, everybody's like, oh, what side are you on? Are you on this side or that side, right?
Can I answer that, Gene?
Pardon me?
Can I answer that?
Absolutely, please do.
Yeah, and I chair our economic development arm for my community. And we're currently doing a whole lot of work on the Trans Mountain expansion project. And I negotiated 2 agreements with Kinder Morgan, and now it's Trans Mountain, and that's our legal name. But it's really helped us in terms of our economic development. We've got no unemployment in my community. We're making all kinds of money that goes back into our community in terms of dividends, where we're building a brand new administration building. We've got all kinds of opportunities for other Indigenous people in this area because of that. And you know, I'm all about pro business development, and you know, managing our resources in a way that benefits us. And typically, in the past, those opportunities would have went by us. So now we're a major part of the regional economy. We're probably the biggest employer in the valley right now, the North Thompson Valley, because of contraction in the forest industry, because of pine beetle and whatnot here in British Columbia.
Right.
And really, we've taken control of our own destiny, and we're in a growth mode. And it's not a bad thing, you know, to have own source revenues that can prop up all of our social programs, you know. And when I was on council, we created our own wealth management arm, Simc Heritage Trust, and we endowed it with our first business deal. And that money is dedicated to helping rebuild our language, culture, and our history. And without those business deals, we wouldn't have been able to do that, because there's no money out there for, there is a bit of money out there, but it's project-based from both federal and provincial governments, but it's oversubscribed. And I think that's up to us to rebuild our language, our culture, and history. You know, we can point the fingers at people and, you know, and say, you should be doing this, you should be doing that. But we prefer to do it ourselves. I mean, let's just do it. I mean, there's no one preventing us from doing that.
Keith, I absolutely love that answer, because same thing with me. I don't like, I'm definitely pro development, and I'm not saying that we have to sell ourselves to go out there and make a difference. And I don't like the approach I've always taken when working with other communities, that we're not here to endorse any project. We're not here to be against any project. But if that project goes, you better be ready to respond, because that project is going to go by so fast. And when I've worked with different industries, and that was the approach I've taken. And then that way, once they get the green light, we're ready to be engaged, we're ready to mobilize, and we're ready to go out there and do work. It's unfortunate that with, for example, a pipeline, it's hard to build a career around that, because it comes in waves, right? 2 or 3 years and it's going to be done. However, when you look at the maintenance contracts, that's a career, right? And that's where I think that's where we need to go. I don't like, you know, you look at the Enbridge Line 3, you look at the Keystone XL, you look at the Coastal GasLink, you look at TMX, and they've all really tried to outdo one another with Indigenous engagement. And that's something I wanted to talk to you about, Keith, is over your years of experience, Indigenous people were nothing but a check mark. And that wasn't all that long ago. And before that, we weren't even thought of to be involved on these projects. And that's another point, is that if you don't get involved in these projects early enough, they're going to make decisions with or without you. And if you're there early enough, then you have some influence as to the outcomes on some of those decisions. So to me, yeah, I don't like, whether it's a pipeline, whether it's a power generation facility, transmission line, anything like that, get involved early, understand the project, and build that capacity within the community so everybody understands. Because you go up to the average person on the street saying, what is a pipeline? Do you know what a pipeline is, where it starts, what goes through there, where the product comes from, where it ends up, and then what happens after that? There's not too many people, and I think that's where doing a pipeline 101 or else transmission 101, anything like that. Even railways, when you look at railways, man, they've been around here for 140 years. How much do we understand about railways?
But they won't deal with us. We tried to engage CN, and they just said, go back to your we go back to a specific claims process, and then we'll talk to you. They were hiding behind the federal government.
Wow.
So, I'd like to address that pipeline issue again if I could.
Yep. Yeah.
And I helped negotiate 2 agreements for our community, obviously. One in 2007, another in 2016. And you're right. The opportunities aren't really extensively. There is huge opportunity around construction, reactivation, and all of the related opportunities. We have 18 joint venture agreements with companies through our economic development arm. But in our master agreement with Kinder Morgan, we have one paragraph that talks about us doing operations and maintenance. And we finally just trained our first pipeline coating expert, so we can do the whole thing now. And
Wow.
that's a career opportunity for members of our community, my community, to do pipeline maintenance. And that's where the opportunities are for us. And I want to be able to help those other communities out there that want to do that, because the opportunities for us to be involved in that particular industry, we have pipelines going through all of our communities right across Canada.
Yeah.
And it's a missed opportunity. It's an opportunity cost for our communities and our people. And we manage that risk by being involved and having our people do the operations and maintenance around all these river crossings, stream crossings. We have 92 in our territory. And there are eyes and ears to tell us how those operations are being maintained according to our standards and Canadian standards. So they can tell us, yes, those things are 99.99% safe. They're safer than rail. Let's be open about that. If you look at some of the things that have happened, oil by rail, huge problems. Lac Saint Anne.
Yep.
You take a look at all the problem that happened in Quebec.
Oh yeah.
Lay
Megan Aptic. Yeah.
Yeah. And I know that there's spills and stuff like that with pipelines, but it's considerably less than other, ways to transport oil and gas.
Energy, yeah.
Are the other reserves surrounding you, are they all pro-pipeline as well, or what's the feeling? Because as we all know, there's always, 2 people on each fence there, so...
Yep.
Is it kind of the same feeling over there or surrounding your reserves?
Yeah, most of the communities along the pipeline route, Trans Mountain, have got mutual benefits agreements. There are the exceptions, and I can't speak for those other communities. I can speak for my experience. I don't speak for us publicly because my chief and council does that, but I can talk about my experiences.
Yeah.
And there are communities that say no, but we respect those communities and their right to be able to look after their own interests. Just like everything else, people have different opinions, and for us in a rural community, this opportunity has provided us with unparalleled opportunities that most of the communities that live next to urban centers, a lot of them have taxation or other opportunities for real own source revenues. We don't have that. We can't do that. So we had to be really creative and go after those major projects in our territory to build expertise, build up project management knowledge, develop our own internal people who could manage those things for us. And it's quite different than running a band office. Band office, you get a certain amount of money that you spend over the year, for social programming. With our business, it's completely different types of accounting and management. And we're set up as a business. Within that master agreement with Kinder Morgan, the thing that they asked for with our operations and maintenance program was that we do it at commercial rates. We said, yes, of course. It's only one paragraph, but it's for 20 years. You can build careers or stuff like that.
Well, definitely some tremendous insight. And as I alluded to earlier, Keith, is that, 10 years ago where we were at, 5 years ago, even a year ago, and where we're at today when you think about now we're talking equity into these pipelines. To me, that is a major game changer. Like, I almost get goosebumps just thinking about the equity that's going to be coming back. Why? Because they're going through our traditional territories. And why can we negotiate equity? When you look at the financial institutions out there, and you look at some of the clients like Kinder Morgan, Trans Canada, Enbridges of the world, they're the ones that benefit tremendously. And for them to open up the door to look at what Indigenous inclusion looks like, unbelievable. And I don't like, so when you talk about equity, it's too bad that CN is taking that mindset. And I've tried to deal with CN too. And, they're one of the largest landowners in the country.
Oh, yeah.
And and I think they have the mineral rights on all those lands too, right?
Oh, yeah. If
huge.
you take a look at some of the agreements that they got from Canada as terms of confederation, they got a 40-mile wide strip of right-of-way right across Canada. No wonder they're one of the wealthiest corporations in the world. They were built on the backs of Indigenous people and your treaties and our territory. And they still haven't come to the table and talked to us.
So I don't when you look at right now, I think there were supposed to be 42 Supreme Court decisions that rule in Indigenous people's favors when it comes to economic development, the duty to consult. When you look at the truth reconciliation, the calls to action, there's so many things that are going in our favor. And I don't know, it's really encouraging to hear you speak about how your guys' community, you guys are in the middle of nowhere, but yet you guys use that as leverage and you guys go after those big projects. What are some of the other projects that you guys are looking at within your territory, Keith?
Well, we've obviously, I mentioned some of those off the top. And what we are in my territory, we're pipeliners and loggers. And because of COVID, the forest industry has really taken off, and we're seeing some really strong returns on. Everyone is out doing renovations and stuff like that. So forest industry is coming back. I'm sure if you talk to your compatriots at Meadow Lake Tribal Council, they could tell you a thing or two about forestry.
Yep.
But we're actively involved in that particular area, and it's a smaller profit center for us. But that's what really got us into the game. We're loggers and ranchers in the local area. Actually, when you talk about owning equity, myself and a number of other partners are looking at purchasing an equity stake in the Trans Mountain Expansion Project. Mm-hmm. And we're working with one of the major chartered banks. We're talking to one of the pipeline companies about helping us once we purchase the asset and managing it. And we've been talking to the government of Canada about this, and we're advancing that particular project down the road. So we're fairly advanced in those discussions, and we're hoping that we can put something in front of the federal government here sometime in the new year, early in the new year, because as you guys are probably well aware, the minority government in Ottawa probably won't last much beyond next summer. So we're trying to make sure that we have done all of our homework and getting all of the First Nations and Métis communities in British Columbia and Alberta lined up to support what we're trying to do as far as equity ownership. That's a huge project for us.
What sort of ballpark dollar figure is involved in that equity?
Well, it's sort of mind-boggling, but we're looking at something in the neighborhood of purchasing the legacy pipe itself that's in the ground right now as a first option, as a first step, and then having an option to buy the improvements that are being done, the second line that's being put in. So in all, it's probably upwards of $18 billion.
Wow. Hard to fathom. But wow, that's the direction I think Canada is going. And I was downtown Calgary today, Keith, and we met with some different companies, and called them out, and I said, you know what? If you guys are not on board with the Indigenous movement forward, then you guys could leave. Because if you're not, you're going to miss out on so many opportunities. One of the contractors said that, you know what, I bid on some of the work on TMX, and I know that I came in at the lowest bid, but I did not get the work, and the rationale is that I had no Indigenous partnership. On the inside, I was like, yes, finally, it's really good to hear those stories, because you need some Indigenous inclusion, some Indigenous love all along the way. And I know out west, you look at Saskatchewan, Alberta, British Columbia, we're very aggressive. And I'm not familiar on a national scale if they're just as aggressive over in Ontario or Quebec or the Maritimes or even territories. I know like Daryl Bolio with Dene Day Investment Corporation, they're doing some really good work up there. But outside of that, given that you're involved at CanDo, what are some of the, feelings out east when it comes to Indigenous Act Dev? Are they parallel with what we're doing out west?
I think there's a big difference, and I don't want to alienate any of the brothers and sisters out east either, but there is a big difference between us in the west and those in, let me say, Ontario. But then if you look further east in Atlantic Canada, there's some huge economic development moves that are being made by Atlantic Canada. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure about Ontario, but or Quebec, but for sure out here in the West, we're very aggressive in terms of us advancing our own particular agenda around economic development. And there's a bit of a divide in even around the financial management institutions that were developed through First Nation Tax Commission. You take a look at where that started in Kamloops, and it's primarily being, put forward by most of the communities in British Columbia, Alberta, Saskatchewan. Muskeg Lake is a good example of, a TLE that seized on that opportunity for taxing those lessees on their and putting forward a real property tax. And they're really picking up their business expertise around land management, taxation, those types of things. And you can see it out west really, really strongly, not so much in Ontario, but again out in Atlantic Canada. There's some really strong moves in that regard. And it's really, I think in terms of real property tax, it's over $1 billion that's been collected by those taxing First Nations. And it's not just real property tax, it's gas, alcohol, tobacco, those types of things. So here in the West, we've really taken that opportunity on and exercised our jurisdiction in that particular area. And it's helped our communities out a lot, in terms of quality of life indicators, better roads, better infrastructure, better all around quality of life, better water treatment center, our facilities, those types of things that are real benefits to our communities. Better paved roads, lights, security, those types of things.
And I'm just thinking, when I think about out east, I can't help but think of the Grand Council of the Cree and how aggressive they are. When Matthew Kuhnkan was chief back there in the late 70s and how they got involved in hydro projects, Cree Construction, Creeco is the name of their company. I think they were doing $1 billion worth of work just a few years ago. And good friend, probably mutual friend, James Blacksmith, right? And yeah, I don't like. And then you look at Membertou when they went by way of that ISO certification. To me, that was like, wow, man, that is taking some tools that exist with mainstream and being able to use that to your advantage. Within the prairie provinces, the one thing that we haven't challenged yet is that 1930 Natural Resources Transfer Agreement. And when you look at the number of treaty areas from Manitoba to Alberta here, that there's so many resources that exist, and the federal government transferring it to the provinces when they never had jurisdiction over those mineral rights. Within our treaties, we've always said that it was only the depth of the plow. And when you look at all the resources that come out of the ground, that's what fuels this entire country. And I know in British Columbia, you guys are a little bit different because you guys got modern day treaties. But just wondering if you might be able to touch on that, Keith, just so the audience has kind of put it into context.
Absolutely. And if I could I also talk about a little bit about our experience with our legal challenges and what we wanted to do with the Supreme Court of Canada decisions. Is that okay, Gene?
Yeah, no, by all means. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah. So basically, in 1997, when the Delgamuukw decision was handed down, and it was being primarily put forward by BC First Nations, there was a number of things that happened at that time, and the Indigenous people in British Columbia here, when the Gitxsan Wet'suwet'en advanced that Supreme Court of Canada decision, and it was found that Indigenous title did in fact was it's real. There was a lot of people in British Columbia said, "Oh, we don't have to do anything anymore. Our title has been proven." But we found out in a hurry that you can't just get those Supreme Court of Canada decisions. You have to actually be prepared to do the work behind it. And what I think we learned here in British Columbia is you can take those Supreme Court of Canada decisions, but you need to monetize them as well. So what happened when I was on my council here for those 10 years, there was other Supreme Court of Canada decisions around consultation accommodation, and notably Haida and Taku River and Mikisew Cree. Those were very notable decisions. And what we did as a result, we worked with West Coast Environmental Law to develop our own nation-based and community-based consultation accommodation bylaws. And what it forced us to do was to force those companies that were coming into our territory and wanting to do work on our territory, it forced them to talk to us. And in addition to those consultation accommodation policies, we appended our own definitions around what our culture and what that meant in terms of viewing these developments through our own cultural lenses. And it afforded us that opportunity to get into those negotiations with those companies, because there's always a legal duty to consult. And that's where the regulators, like either the federal or provincial governments, they had to come talk to us about these things that were happening on our territory. And we're prepared, and we monetized those decisions, and that's what led us up to where we are today. And it's been very beneficial for us. There are, in fact, modern day agreements here in British Columbia, Manulf, Nishka, and the challenge is always with those agreements, how do we pay for services to our membership? And I think that when you go into those agreements, you have to think about those things, because that money that you get from those final settlements, it's a finite amount. And then if you don't have the ability to own source revenue, or you don't have the opportunities to do that, then you run into money problems.
Yeah. No, that, you know what, that duty to consult, I think, is a serious game changer that took place. Unfortunately, I don't think all the provinces recognize that duty to consult. It's not being exercised enough. Alberta, they're pretty progressive. BC, they are. Saskatchewan, I hate to say, is that provincial government over there just doesn't have too much love for its Indigenous people. And nobody has challenged provincial government for the duty to consult. And where does it lie? It lies with the Crown, right? And that's a lot of their defense. But they are the government, so I don't they really need to open up those doors. And I think that once they do, instead of resisting the Indigenous inclusion, what would happen if they were to embrace it? And not you just think about all the positive outcomes that would happen. Stories of your community, for businesses as an individual, but then your community's health indicators, everything, the quality of life has increased so much. And throughout the history of the world, they always valued or assessed a community or a culture. It would always be assessed by where their infrastructure is at. And you look at so many of the First Nations, sure, we got some of the First Nations that are doing really good, but we have way too many that are not doing too good. And they're living in those squalor conditions. Third world, 20 people to a house, it's horrendous. But I think that's why guys like you and me, we want to go out there, we want to make a change, we want to increase everybody's quality of life. And I know that it's not only for Indigenous people, because there's a lot of good non-Indigenous people out there too, and that they're part of our communities, and a lot of them contribute in a good way. So the future is definitely looking bright. And you look at individuals like I know Michael Fox out in Ontario. He's front and center on a lot of those big projects, the Ring of Fire, and they're doing that big infrastructure loop for transmission lines going throughout northern Ontario into those remote communities where they had diesel generators for power. Absolutely unbelievable. Within BC, what's the population of your community?
Oh gosh, that's interesting. We've got 203 First Nations here in British Columbia.
Yeah.
And in my community, we've got about 800, and that's 2/3 of our population live off reserve, and that's a challenge for us because when we're doing these major resource agreements, we tap out our local population for work, and that's why I can say that everyone that wants work has got work. And then we have to look outside of our reserve boundaries for other people to work in our territory, and that's not a bad thing. We do have about 120 people working for our development corporation right now. Wow. And I don't know what the numbers are with our band administration. I do know that we're in a hiring mode right now with our development corp, and our average wage is probably it's probably around $50,000-$60,000 for most of the people that are working for us. And the training and the opportunities for advancement are quite incredible for a small community like ours. And we've just taken on that challenge, and we're running with it. And because of COVID right now, we're declared essential services, especially on pipeline maintenance and pipeline construction.
Right.
And we've been able to hire the best health managers out there to help guard against any of the COVID issues that are impacting or could potentially impact our community or our businesses. So that's one of the side benefits of having a strong economic development arm. We can hire the best people, and it's really COVID proof.
Interesting. The one thing I've always thought about, Keith, is when you look at First Nations and you talk about all the people that are working and the money that they make, how much of that money stays in the community? And before you answer that, I grew up next door to Hutterite Colony, and last year, a couple of shows ago, I mentioned, Nathan, that there's one that was north of Lloydminster, and I went there and I started talking with them, and there's 168 people in their community, and I asked the guy, I said, so what does everybody do? Well, we all work. 168 people, where do you work? And they had this storefront building, and it must have been about 300 feet long with 10-foot spaces, like storefronts. And all of a sudden he started listening. He says, well, at the end over there, that's the bakery. The one next to it is the meat shop. The third one is where they do leather work. The fourth one is where they do swag items, the cups, coffee cups, blow-up pitchers, all that. And then at the other end, they had mechanics, they had tire shop, and they were 100% self-sustainable. And I was like, man, why can't we have that within our Indigenous communities? If you got 800 people, Mistwasis, we got 1,500 people living on the reserve. All we have is a gas station, and that you only go there for pop and chips and gas. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think you've touched on something that's huge for our communities, and we call it bungee economics here in my community. And like I said, we've probably only got about 300 people living on my res, and the majority live off reserve, and they live off reserve for a variety of different reasons. Those reasons could include going back to school, getting our post-secondary education program was really good. Excuse me. It was really good at training our people, but what it did is it trained our people so that they could get work and get opportunities in the neighboring non-native communities working in white-collar industry. And really, that took away a lot of people who would support a local economy. Mm-hmm. And we don't have the numbers really to even have a gas station on our reserve because we're fairly remote. And that money comes into our community and it goes directly out. And that's probably not a bad thing. But what it does, it really supports the regional economy. So the small towns of Valemount, Clearwater, Blue River, Kamloops are the beneficiaries of all the work that we do here in my community. We've got over 120 employees, and we've publicly released our financial statements, not financial statements, but how much we earned in the last couple of years. It was $20 million. Wow. And that money, and that's profit. So that money doesn't stay in our community. It comes in once and it goes directly back out to the local towns and benefits mostly non-native business people, and that's a good thing. They're our neighbors. We don't mind doing that, but we'd like to be able to capture some of that money and have it stay within our economy at least one more time. So there is challenges, and those challenges are around land management, tenure, mm-hmm. And the fact that as Indigenous people, we don't even own the reserves that we live on. It's owned by Her Majesty the Crown and right of the Queen.
Go figure.
And for us, I think we need to take that leap and actually go to the federal government and say, we want that land. We can create our own institutions to vest that title into a Torrens land title system and create our own institutions and start managing our own lands and getting some value out of it. Right now, it's really hard to get a mortgage on reserve because of the various problems around the Indian Act.
Right.
Why can't we do that? Why can't we take that land back and begin managing it for ourselves and get out from under the Indian Act? That's what I would like us to consider and do. Because the Indian Act is one of the biggest impediments to doing business on reserve.
Absolutely. Yeah. Actually, Mr. Wasis, we ratified the First Nation Land Management Act about 3 years ago. And I think it removes about 32 sections of the Indian Act as it pertains to land. And it's good. And a lot of people, of course, you have the old school people saying, oh, no, we're going to become like a municipality and we're going to get taxed. But at the same time, in your opening comments, Keith, you were talking about how we need to leverage whatever it is that we have before us and make it turn it into a positive. I'm a big fan of the Maori over in New Zealand, and my background's in justice, and they were some of the leaders in the world when it came to restorative justice initiatives. And then all of a sudden I started getting involved in ACTEV, and again, the Maori name kept coming up. And they use every single square inch of land that they have to either grow something, to use it. And when you look at our First Nations across this country, my goodness, all we have is land, and we're not using it to benefit us. A lot of it sits there, and maybe it's marginalized land, but it is still land. I don't especially in Saskatchewan, when you look at the land claims that are being settled over there, unbelievable. They're they give a lot more opportunity. And when you have savvy economic development administration, then use that as leverage and try to get involved in some of the utility corridors, buying urban land, as you alluded to with Muskeg Lake. Our next door neighbors, they were the grandfathers when it came to developing that. And you look at, your comments about taking out mortgages on the reserve. First Nations Financial Authority, could that be something that they get involved with in offering mortgages? I don't know. Just kind of spitballing a bit there, Keith.
Absolutely. Our next door neighbors, who are relatives of mine, the Kamloops Tissaquepum, the Kamloops Indian Band.
Yep.
They were the ones who really started the movement towards amending the Indian Act and using that amendment to develop real property tax. And my cousin Manny Jules was the guy that did that. And they've got developments on their reserve where they've got the Sun Rivers development, and if you look at West Bank and a number of other BC First Nations, Squamish, and those communities that are living in urban areas, they've really taken on those responsibilities. And the Sun Rivers Development Corporation, it has $800, $900 million homes, and it's an economic development model that's good for utilizing those lands. And they've taken on the responsibility of managing their own. They weren't the First Nations land management is being used in West Bank for sure. West Bank First Nation, and you should see the development there. It's crazy. It's incredible. I don't know if you've been there, but incredible opportunities for the residents of that community and the regional economy. But the First Nations who are doing that, they've taken that responsibility, and they're doing quite well. And there's other examples, even in Saskatchewan, with opening of the new casino and the opportunities in Saskatoon that are occurring there. My good friend Dallin Bear, his father is the chief of his reserve, and they just opened up their hotel, and they're using self-government discussions to advance their particular issues, and they've taken on the First Nations land management. Those are opportunities that they're risk takers, and they're obviously reaping the benefits.
Yeah, no, Whitecap Dakota is definitely a champion, and Chief Darcy Bear, he's been there for, 30 years, I think, and just doing a tremendous job, and they definitely, smaller community in their proximity to Saskatoon, definitely use that to their advantage. And you think about proximity, and I don't know, like you look at Satina and Enoch, and they're next door to two of the biggest cities in the country, and they're so affluent cities, right? Calgary and right where Satina is, man, boy, that's a rich neighborhood. And with that Stony Trail going through there, they leveraged so many opportunities, and unbelievable what they got. Good on them, because land is something that you'll never get back. And I don't know, like, I know that there's a lot of mixed feelings about it. And I was out there about 2 weeks while I was there today, but 2 weeks ago I went to that Costco, and the reviews that they're getting from that Costco in Satina, supposed to be the busiest Costco, I think, in Western Canada.
Absolutely.
And just over a month ago, I was in Kelowna, and we went to Penticton, and went through West Bank, and I've been there a number of times. But for those people that have never been to West Bank First Nation, you cross the bridge from Kelowna going across the Okanagan Lake, and you drive right into West Bank, and you could never tell that's a First Nation. You'd be so hard pressed. I used to work with Stantec, and we did some work out there looking at, I think they had about 4 acres, and they want to come up with a conceptual plan design. And West Bank, they're masters at it, because how they utilize their entire land, and everything is making money. Wineries, everything, and even the neighbors to the south there, Chief Clarence Louis, and being right in the Okanagan, and all the vineyards. Well, pretty good chance we should probably get into vineyards too. And look at what they created with that Indigepreneur wines. Delicious stuff. And their Spirit Resort, unbelievable. Boy, they got, that's probably one of the nicest properties I've ever been to in my life. Beautiful. Yeah.
And they did through land management and taxation, and not every community can do that. I know that, but you take a look at my community. We're remote, and we took advantage of the opportunities that were in front of us by being involved in all the major projects within our territory, and we utilized the consultation accommodation Supreme Court of Canada decisions to force those major projects to the table with us. And, it can be done. You can be wealthy and prosperous in any part of this country. You just have to really work hard at it and have a vision for your people. And the most valuable part of our community is our people.
Absolutely.
It's not anything else. We've got lots of people who are well educated now, and we've got our first medical doctor. He's a surgeon, and we've got all kinds of people who have masters and doctorates. It's crazy, And I reflect back, Gene, on my community's history. My dad was a chief back in 1969 when Jean Chrétien handed down the white paper.
Yeah.
And he was part of the resistance to that white paper, and was one of the founders of the Union of BC, UBCIC, Union of BC Indian Chiefs. And, that was a time when we still had Indian agents on our reserves that would make all the decisions for us. And there was no such thing as honorarium or travel. And, I was there at those meetings, and, I was privileged to sit in as a little boy and listen to some of the great leaders talk about where they wanted to take us. And,
wow.
And you take a look at what was happening back in 1969. I think we only had like a handful of high school and university graduates, probably 4 or 5.
Yeah.
Take a look at what we have now, and we're way, way better off. We've got all kinds of professionals. We've got doctors, we've got lawyers, we've got accountants. We're never going to be poor again, Gene. Never, because of that. And that's part of the answer for us as Indigenous people, is getting the appropriate training, and it doesn't have to be in a white-collar profession. You can take the different training and be a Red SEAL and make just as much money as some of the professionals, even more, and live in your own community, and provide services to the local regional economy. So we don't need to be poor anymore. We need to be able to use the resources at our hand and really use those to our advantage. And I'm reminded of Chief Dan George in his lament to Canada in 1969, and he talked about our situation back then. And he said his dream was for us to occupy the halls of power and really stand up and be masters of our own destiny. And I think we're doing that, Gene. I really do. I honestly do. I look across the country and I see us working in areas that we could only dream about back in my dad's day. And my dad, he promoted us going to getting out of the residential schools and going to the public schools, because both of my parents went to residential school. And, my dad had a great education. My mom, the same thing. And both of them were horribly abused while they were at the residential schools. And that passes on to other generations. I'm not
100%.
making anything like that, but that's one of the legacies that we have to overcome. And we have to be healthy in, making our decisions and helping our communities and stuff like that. But those are some of the challenges that we have to overcome as Indigenous people. And we can do it. We can honestly do it. My dad, they didn't have the tools that we have today, and he was a dreamer. He wanted us to succeed. And, he made sure that he did everything that he could to set us up for success today.
And you know what? As a parent, that's all that we want to do, right? Is make our kids become bigger and better than what we ever were. Last night, my oldest son flew in from Fort Mac. All my three boys work up in Fort Mac. They make some good money and all that. And as a father, it makes me pretty proud knowing that if we go do something, it's no longer just the old guy that foots the bill for everything. It's them now, right? Because they're making good money. And I'm not saying that money's everything, but it's being afforded those opportunities that we never had before. And I look at the plight of my own parents and that, and I think, you know what? You want to go out there and be all that you can. And realizing what they went through. And I'm starting to sound like an old guy, but when you look at the younger generation, everything is given to them on a silver platter, man. It's there for the taking. And some of them really embrace it, and some don't. One elder told me, he says, you know what, Gene? We've all been given gifts. Every single one of us. But not everybody opens it. And I just think it's a profound statement. Hey, Keith, just think about closing if you want to do some parting words and that. And also, I ask so many people, who is the richest Indigenous person in BC?
That's a really difficult question. I know a couple of people that are extremely well off. In my history working in our communities, I've had the opportunity to work alongside a lot of them, I was a political advisor to National Chief Phil Fontaine for a couple of his terms in office. And, I think we judge wealth a little bit differently in our community.
Mm-hmm.
And I've heard, my neighbors to the north talk about being wealthy when you've got a huge extended family.
Yeah.
So that's one version of wealth that I honestly believe in. And if you're talking about monetary wealth, the Grand Chief Ron Derrickson is definitely up there.
Yep.
There's others. Former Chief Robert Louis, who owns a winery in Kelowna and is a good friend of mine. there's a number of others. When Chief Derrickson was chief of his community, had the opportunity to work with him, and he's a hard-nosed businessman, man. Love to see those guys, and they'll help. They'll give you advice.
Yep.
But you need to go and you need to work with them, and those are a couple of the individuals that I know that have worked hard for what they've gotten, and they've gotten the benefit of all that hard work, and good for them.
Yeah.
Those are a couple of the examples, and they're just really smart business people, hard-nosed, work hard every day, work on weekends, work on evenings, and that's what it takes, and if you love what you do, it's not really work.
No. And the only reason why I ask about the richest person is one day I want to see Indigenous Bill Gates. I want to see families that Keith Matthew, all of a sudden you got 4 companies today. In 10 years, you're going to have 40 companies and you're going to generate $500 million. And the reason why I say that is that we need those type of role models within our communities, because that's something that we never had before. And I don't like people that have those work ethics. And Grand Chief Ron Derrickson, I shared a profile. There's an article on him on the Globe and Mail. And he's a straight business guy. I've had the opportunity to do a little bit of work with him here in Edmonton. He came out and did a conference a couple of years ago and got a chance to chit chat with him. But pretty inspirational. And then you think about Jerry Hill and Ken Hill and Jerry Montour out from Six Nations with Grand River Enterprises. And you got all these Supreme Court decisions that it ruled in your favor, including taxation. Again, how can you use that as leverage, right? Like non-Indigenous people would say, man, jump all over that, because is it going to be there forever? I sure hope so, but chances are nothing lasts forever, right? So,
agreed.
So if young people were listening out there, Keith, what words of advice would you offer them?
Be healthy, get an education, but really talk to your elders and learn your culture, your language, your history, and your language if you can, because that's what's going to get you through the rough parts. If you've got, I live in my home community. I love it here. It's where I intend to die here, and it's home, and if you can make it in your own home community, you can make it anywhere. It's just a matter of there's opportunities out there, especially in business. What I found when I was working on council is there's ceilings. There's a lot of restrictions around how you earn a living and whatnot. But in business, you can the sky's the limit, and it's up to you to how you want to make that work. So, and I know there's really good examples out there in Saskatchewan as well. We featured a lot of the young Indigenous people from Can Do has those young Indigenous entrepreneurs, and man, the future is so bright for those young people. They're just doing some incredible things, Gene, and I'm really proud to be a part of that movement to help our people achieve their dreams and build equity and help their future generations. My dad always said that he wanted us to buy off reserve and build equity, and that's a tried and true method. But I've done it the hard way. I live on my own res. I have a mortgage on my reserve here, and Hernando de Soto calls it dead capital because you can't leverage it against anything. But I believe in my community, and that's why I live here. So, I pay for that in a lot of different ways. My mortgage was over $250,000, and hopefully I'll get that paid off next year, and I can think about retirement.
Wow. You know what? I think you hit the nail on the head. I have a house back in my home community, and wow, the feeling when I'm sitting at home and just so peaceful, and thinking how many of my ancestors all lived in that community. And I kind of inherited a house from an uncle that passed on, and what it meant to him in that, eh? So, yeah, definitely rather empowering, and really good words with if you can make it in your own community, you can make it anywhere. Because your biggest critics usually come from your own community. And that's to be expected, is, there's a lot of good stuff happening in the communities. And the future, Keith, is absolutely bright. You know, you look at some of these young people, wow, becoming entrepreneurs. You look at a Kendall Netmaker, he's going out there and just, wow, man, he's found his own thing. And there's so many others out there that are making a difference and a change. And it's really creating an exciting time. When you look at the Indigenous communities and the economic development initiatives that are taking place across this country, none of those were afforded to us years ago. And right now, where we're at, it's only going to get more exciting in the next 5, 10, 20 years. And hopefully one day we'll be running this country. So
I think we already are, Gene. And you know, I'm really inspired by Kendall. You know, he's a young guy, and he bootstrapped everything. You know, he came. No one gave him anything. You know, no one gave him a darn thing. And he's that rags to riches story, man. And I don't know if he would like it being described that way, but you know, he is a great young leader. I love to see that, and especially in business, you know, we need those kind of stories to help all of us.
Spirit of entrepreneurship, and that's what this program is all about. So, with that, Keith Matthew, all the way from Sink.
Close
Say
enough.
it, Keith. Close enough. Son of God. And so, just out of curiosity, what town is closest to you guys?
It's Barrier, and then Kamloops is a bigger regional center. We're about 45 minutes from Kamloops, so that's where I go play my hockey and do all my shopping and all
That's
that
where.
other stuff.
That's where you goon it up. No, I was going to say next time I come out that way, I'll have to give you a call and go spend the night and drink some tea with you and share some stories. So
let's do that. Let's do that, Gene.
That sounds really good. All right. Well, just want to say thank you again, Keith Matthew, for coming on board. Definitely one of the leaders, in my opinion, in this country when it comes to championing Indigenous economic development. I know that a good friend of yours is Chief Michael Laborday. Labordier. And then I follow them on, they're both my Facebook friends, and geez, man, they just constantly rib each other. And you know what? That's just part of that getting old, being Indigenous, and you know, it's like the two old men, and they're always poking it at each other. So it's really good. Again, just want to say thanks, Keith. Keep up the great work, and yeah, stay online, and we'll have a chit chat. So with that, next week we'll.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Hi. Okay, that is the Indigepreneur show for Wednesday, October 28th. Keith Matthew. Who do we have next week, Nathan?
You can see my door. I'm hoping it's the Treaty 6 Tressler from Treaty 6 shirts.
Oh, great. Boy, I love that product.
But I want to say something, bro. You did awesome tonight, and I really seen you flowing, and you're in your element. I'm going to say now, I don't know if I'll be on the next show, because this is what IOPPS is about. And I want to say right now, this is what IOPPS is about. IOPPS, you see the hashtag IOPPS, it's Indigenous Success and Opportunities. This one show is called Indigepreneur. And it's all about business, bro, which is your world. Like when we were in that conversation there with Keith, I was just listening because that's not my world. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was interesting to listen. So, I hope you can take this role, and I'm doing it live because I want to just to say it. I think you're in your element. I think you can carry the show on your own. It's just who it is. What it is. It suits you. You know what I mean?
I don't know what to say. You're just
wait.
So I strong.
No. But yeah, bro, I think I'm gonna just hand this show over to yeah, you're in your element, bro, and I do my morning show anyway, and you guys, and this is what I want IOPPS to be. I want IOPPS to be a bunch of different podcasts, and this is just one of the elements. Would be Indigepreneur. I got my morning show, and hey, yeah, sky's the limit.
Yeah, no, you know what? It's just been so interesting with the high level of people that we've had to interview. Shannon Metawabin a couple of weeks ago with President and CEO of NACA. Last week, Rachel Smith with Bannock Express. This week, Keith Matthew. And boy, he's doing some really, really good stuff. And always been a big fan of Keith. So with that, you know what? Just wanted to say we'll definitely identify who's going to be coming on next week, and it will be getting bigger and better. And if there's anybody out there that you guys want to nominate to get interviewed, please don't hesitate. And it'd be really good if we had some people from out east. I reached out to a good friend of mine from Ontario, and he's been so busy, and him too. He's getting involved in some podcasts, and he says, one day, but. So busy,
podcasts, man, that's where they're at. This is how we're all going to start connecting. It is what it is. I think we're going to sign out there. With that, you guys, thank you for tuning in, and I appreciate everything. And Gino, you're on the side now. Go ahead.
All right. You guys have a wonderful night, and keep shining in all that you guys do. Support Indigenous business. Support Indigenous business.
Yes.
100%. All right. Have a good night.
Good night.